Well, you already know your name's Daryl. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming, and our condolences all go to the family. I met Heather 30 plus years ago. I was in my late teens. I was on my way to a pretty bad place. At that time, I really believe if it wasn't for Heather taking me in, roof over my head, pop me up every day, and the knocks there every couple of days just to keep me in line. I don't know where I'd be today. Heather took me in as if I was family. It's the person Heather was, a loving, caring lady, a shady lady. When I remarried 4 years ago, I had no family. Heather said, I will fly to Fiji to be your family and stand beside. And she did. I will always love you like a mum. Thanks, sir.
Anybody else in the family? Alan Jorgensen.
Welcome everybody. I look out there and I see a few faces I know. A lot I don't. Heather was my eldest sister. She came into my life. She was born in, I think, 1942. I was born in 55. And we share a special little bond. Heather was born on the 25th of March. Oh, sorry, the 26th of March. I was born on the 25th of March. So our birthdays were never forgotten. A lot of the rest of the families, yes, we have forgotten birthdays. I would have been about, going into grade 1, grade 2, when Heather first came into our lives. We all knew we had an older brother and an older sister, but we never got to see them till a few years later. Heather came into our lives in that time, which would have been about 1960. She came up as a single lady. And if you want to know what Heather looked like when she came into our house, just look at Shalene. Believe it or not, it's a reincarnation of a beautiful lady. Now Heather moved into our house. We lived over in Fletcher Street, which is behind the back of the Shamrock. A little 2-bedroom house. At that stage we had brothers and sisters and all the rest of it in one room. Mum and Dad were in the other room, and Heather had to sleep on the couch. Now it was during these years that Heather fell into rock and roll, and the recollections that I can look back at was she used to have those fancy rock and roll dresses. I think they call them rockabilly these days, where Heather was very well endowed up top, very skinny around the waist, and these dresses used to sit out about this far. And those dresses had multiple layers underneath. And my older brother and myself, we were entering the age where girls started to appeal to us. And we always wanted to know what the girls had under what they were wearing and what we had. And during those years with the rock and roll, Heather used to practice in our lounge. And we'd pull all the stuff apart, and she'd do her rock and roll to the Elvis Presley stuff. My older brother and myself, we couldn't help but peek, like all young boys do. And she'd dance around, and the dress would go up, and the faster she spun, those dresses went up higher, and the different layers of clothing underneath those dresses would slowly come up. And if you go to the rockabilly shows now, that's what happens. But us being young kids, we used to help Heather spin. So as she spun, our hands were doing this to get those little frills to go up a bit higher. And we used to get kicked up the butt by our mum and all the rest of it. Now, a few years after that, Heather used to get up, and she met these couple of guys who used to go out to these dance places, one up on top of Serena Range, and there's another one up on top of Eaton Range. Well, those places are closed down now, except for the one up on top of Serena at Colston Park. And we actually went out there. My father had an old F.E. Holden panel van. And we went out there all jammed in the back of this car. And if you know how big an F.E. Holden panel van was, there was all of our clan. I think Steve and Craig, no, they weren't with us that time. It was another time. We'd all jam in the back of this little car and away we'd go to the top of the range. And this is where Heather got her nickname, Belle, B-E-L-L-E. She was the Belle of the Bull. With her fancy outfits, she used to, I'm not quite sure if she actually made them or she bought them. I think, as Steve said, she could have made them. Every time Shalene walked out on that dance floor, all the guys' jaws used to drop. And it was like a bit of a competition who'd get out there and dance with Heather the longest. But there's a lot of guys used to dance like with her. A few years later, Heather left our house and went away. And we started to grow up, and we got into our, I think we're still in primary school, getting not quite close to high school stage. Heather turned up again. This time, Stephen and Craig were with her. We were still living in that little house. Remember that house, Steve? A lovely little house, wasn't it? Mum and Dad slept in one room. At this stage, my older brother Glenn, I'm sorry to say he could not make it today, he's in Tasmania. Glenn was on the bottom bunk. I was in the top bunk. There was 3 sets of double bunks in one little room that you couldn't throw a cat in. It was myself, Glenn, Ray, Jeffrey, Steve and Craig in this room. Now that room wouldn't have made 3 metres square, maybe 4 by 3. We had a little alleyway between the beds. I don't know how many times we got to kick up the backside, mate? Chasing one another round and round them beds, double-decker beds, We'd jump from the top, dum, 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 down the other side, dum, dum, round circles, and my mum would scream and holler, "Do right there, bloody." Steve's mum, again, would sleep out on the couch. At this stage, my sister Zeta, that's just over here, she was the youngest one. Zeta was born 40 years after Heather, so Zeta was born in 62, so she was only a little one young, and then, so she ended up sleeping in at Mum's house. And we stayed there for a few years, and I'm not quite sure exactly what happened, but Heather moved out, away went the kids, and they moved over to Simon Street. And I believe this when Charles came on the scene. And I remember getting the kick up the arse over there, sorry the language. Remember that sweet potato vine down the backyard? Do not go into the sweet potatoes. That was Heather's pride and joy.
We ate them anyway.
Yeah, we ate them, but do not go in there. But this particular day, Steve and I were down the backyard, and curiosity got the cat. Hey, we want to know what was in that sweet potato patch. So we went in there and we dug up the sweet potatoes trying to find them, and yeah, we got caught. And we copped it. And we all know what Heather was like when she went off. She really ripped the strips out of me, I tell you, because I was the oldest. So I had to take the blame, and I copped it. And I had to then explain to my mum why I was in the sweet potato patch. And then as the years went past, yeah, Steve and Craig, Shalene, hang on, I jumped the gun. Stephen and Craig and Heather then moved out, and yes, I vaguely remembered the house fire, and they moved into other houses just around the corner from us. We were in Fletcher Street, we moved up into Bannister Street, so Heather brought the clan close to our place so we could all intermingle and keep the family together. And yeah, we all grew up together, various houses, and I left the scene around about the mid-70s, because I was a little bit older than everybody else. And I left in 78, 79, and decided to travel around Australia. I came back, and by this time Heather had moved from all the houses and actually bought her house over in Harbison Street. And yeah, over the years we did see one another. There wasn't a day that went past that we were up at the shopping centre, we'd stop and talk. And yeah, we have some very, very fond memories, sister. I've always called her sis, because, you know, at that stage, when we first started to call her sis, she was the only sister. Now I've got two sisters, which is, yeah. I love all my family, and especially my sister. She helps me out a hell of a lot. And yeah, that's all I can virtually say about my sister. As you can see that beautiful photo on the cast there, I can remember seeing that on my mum's lounge floor for many, 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 many years. And we all know in 2008 we had that big flood. Our house had a metre of water through it. And if you went into my mum's house, there was thousands of photos on the floor. A lot of them got wrecked. We hunted high and low for that photo, and we couldn't find it. We thought it was gone. 2 days ago, that photo came back. Thanks, Shirley. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you, Alan. Anybody else in the family? Okay. Anybody else in the family would like to say something before I open it up to friends? Okay. Carrie, where are you? Did you want to say something? Okay. All right, I'd like to open it up to the friends now to come. Anybody from the CV Dart Club? Yep. Getting a bit hot out here, guys, too. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, well, my name's Dale, I won't say much. I've known Shady for probably about 25 years, started on the CB and that. You could always hear Shady, she was always there. Channel 22 on 7:30 Friday night with the CB News. Keep you up to date with the latest happenings with the Darts Club. Without fail, she was there. Always good for a yarn, and she'd always help you no matter what. Even if you just wanted someone to talk to, she'd always be there. She'd talk to you. She would never judge you. And you could tell her anything and know that it only went that far.